improvement.
All right, so today's episode is going to be a bit more topical than usual. Most of our episodes are we have an intro, which is more topical discussion, then we move on to a main topic, which is kind of evergreen, and is discussing whatever mechanics, game theory. This episode is going to be more, because there's an awful lot going on this week. It's going to be one of this Runes Reforged, big patch with lots of champion reworks, relatively stuff about NLCS. We're going to be kind of discussing those big things in this episode, as well as kind of having a more casual discussion. So it's going to be a slightly more relaxed episode. Andrew hasn't done as much homework as usual, so
yes, I have.
I'm kidding.
We just figured we'd take the gloves off and wade in to the manure of news that's kind of just like currently piling up in the league community.
Of mainstream.
Yeah, and just really just going to dig in and just see what we can extract it out to discuss and talk about, rather than give you the shining jewel of improvement and knowledge that we usually do every week. That'll be reserved for next week. And next week we won't actually have a pre-show, so enjoy this while you can, because as of now you're just not going to know actually what happens in the League of Legends community, because we're your number one source for such things.
Yeah. But yeah, so start off with, I'd like to talk about one big old bomb that was dropped yesterday, which is the NA LCS Challenger team, or CS, because I'm just repeating things there. So it's Echo Fox have picked up Shifter, Dyrus, Voyboy, Scara, and Qtpie for a challenger team, which kind of seemed like a bit of a prank on the behalf of whatever was Score Esports or something. That
they literally had like an April Fool's prank of this in April.
Yeah,
didn't they? Like this exact
it was like
thing.
Qtpie's coming back pro. He was coming back as like TSM's AD carry. What's the joke?
No, I thought they had like a super team with Voyboy and stuff. It was like Voyboy, Qtpie, Scar, and they were called like Team like Donger or something.
Oh, maybe.
They literally had this exact thing. He's like, this is such a laughable concept. It is only worthy of a joke. And then they just went and did it anyway.
So yeah, it's real. It's been confirmed by Shifter. I mean, again, it could be a really extended prank. I mean,
that's real.
It would be pretty like they had Echo Fox's.
People would be sad as well. It's fake.
Yeah, so it was a bit mad. It blew up pretty damn fast in like something like 3 hours. It had 15,000 upvotes or something. Certainly, those 5 players are some of the most popular players in the game. Definitely a massive. I mean, again, we were talking about this. It's difficult to tell what the motivation was, because like in the article, it was kind of Qtpie was quoted as saying like, we kind of want to do it because it would be a bit of fun, sort of a thing. But I assume, there have been reasons that they haven't all come back before, even though it might be a bit of fun to rejoin the LCS. It is a big commitment, regardless of whether or not it's a more casual challenger team. Certainly, I think there's an awful lot going into the brand of Echo Fox here. Like I'm sure, Rick Fox is in charge there, and he's certainly not a poor man. So I'm sure there's an awful lot of money being divulged into that.
Well, yeah, because like the big question is, and it's mentioned in the .esports article that kind of talks about this. It mentions that Qtpie makes at least $2 million a year on streaming, which is just insane money. Like, I don't know how much a salary a team could pay him, but that's the obvious reason why Qtpie I would have said Qtpie would never go back into professional esports again. It's because he's making so much money doing a much easier job. Why would you go back to such an intense, high-pressure thing? So I think that they are, like, Echo Fox are obviously paying them all a hell of a lot, because it's on a smaller scale. Scar will also be making quite a lot. Void will also be making quite a lot. Nowhere near what Qtpie makes.
Still making a lot.
He's still king of the cash pile. He still sits on top of it, and they all kind of climb up it. But like, they'll also be making a good bit of money for a much easier job. So obviously, Echo Fox is paying out serious cash for this. What I think is interesting, and definitely this is cool. Like, this is really interesting. Everyone's going to want to watch the NACS.
Yeah, it's going to reinvigorate the viewership for
big the thing. Yeah, but it reminds me a bit of those. If anyone follows football/soccer, what happened when the MLS, which is the American Major League Soccer, which is when North America had their own soccer league, and they had a lot of money to splash around. And so what ended up happening was that they'd get all these football players from like Europe, who were very, very good, but they were kind of coming out to retirement. They weren't quite good enough to play for the top teams anymore. So they would pay them. They could go over to like LA or whatever, play for these play for this team and like the really nice sunshine and stuff, get loads of money, it'd be kind of easy because like the quality wasn't very
and
high.
they're big profiles, so they give a lot of publicity.
Yeah, so like the first big one was David Beckham. You'd Robbie Keane, which actually was a big one, shockingly. Our Irish lad.
Still a legend, you know.
He's legendary in America, actually, believe it or not. But yeah, like fucking. I'm trying to name more, like, but I think Pirlo went over. Steven Gerrard, all these giant players anyway. But what would happen is that it kind of got this reputation as like the players weren't that. These guys wouldn't have been that motivated. They were kind of superstars. They'd already done it all. They were just getting all the money, and they weren't necessarily trying their hardest every game. This reminds me a little bit of that because I mean, you can't imagine if they're like behind early in the game that like Qtpie is going to be like, guys, we need to win this game.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he will, because there's a difference. Because he might consciously say, guys, we should. He's not gonna give up and say, oh, I give up.
Yeah.
But in the back of his head, is he going to be pushing with every fiber of his being to win this game because it matters so much to him? Because at the end of the day, he knows this is kind of a fun romp out. He's getting paid all this anyway. He's got his streaming, which matters more anyway. And you can multiply that by 5 then. And then you've got 5 guys who are kind of playing for fun. On top of the fact that these guys they haven't played professional league in a while. None of them have in a while. A lot of them weren't very good towards the end of their professional league career. Looking at Qtpie, looking at Dyrus, looking at Shifter.
Looking at Boy.
Scara.
They're all.
Boy was pretty decent towards the end.
He was okay.
Yeah, I was at Scara as well. So these guys who weren't mechanically at that level. And people say Qtpie was. They say, if Qtpie came back, he'd be great. I think he was pretty. He was never that good, really. But so there's 5 guys who necessarily weren't these mechanical gods anyway, who've been streaming for a while, haven't played professionally, who don't have that kind of mental. They're going to be going up against the guys who are like, oh, we're against these like legendary figures.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to be trying our best. Like, I'm wondering how well they're kind of going to do. Are they just going to come up against these teams of like hyper motivated, very mechanically talented, like
top of the ladder,
up and coming kind of challenger players and just get absolutely steamrolled?
Well, I mean, I think it's again that attitude. Like the Challenger Series isn't a thing where all the teams have a clubhouse where they all practice together. It's not clearly a full-time commitment, which is definitely one, I think, motivating factor on why they wouldn't go back to the LCS, because they don't want to be spending all their time, practicing and working towards goals like winning the LCS and stuff. They want to be relaxed. They want to be in their homes. They're all comfortable. None of them live in big team houses. They all, for the most part, Qtpie has a big house. Boy lives by himself.
Does he?
I think. Does he live with his girlfriend? Does he still?
They broke up.
Oh, okay.
He used to live with her. I think he lives with somebody though.
Okay, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. I was basically saying they live in different areas. A lot of Challenger Series players, are still playing from their homes. Because again, the Challenger Series we'll be discussing this more on the changes to the Challenger Series. But right now, it's currently kind of a lead up to the LCS. You power through the Challenger Series, you win it, you immediately get promoted to the LCS. An LCS team gets relegated. And at that point, often Challenger Series teams will move into clubs. There are certainly academy teams for LCS, current LCS teams, which do have often gaming houses and stuff. Like there's I'm trying to think, Liquid Academy, they had a gaming house. It was all like a matter of kind of stepping up and how professional it was how much infrastructure was behind the Challenger Series team. A lot of Challenger Series teams didn't have the infrastructure. Once they hit LCS, they got more infrastructure. Often they were sponsored, but it wasn't a big sponsorship. So certainly this looks like they have the name, but they're not going to be, I highly doubt they're going to be moving into a team house and practicing 24/7. I think it's very much, again, as Qtpie said, like we just thought it would be a bit of fun sort of a thing to kind of tear through the challenger scene. Seemed, to very much echo that sentiment of like, we're kind of just memeing it up, we're kind of just having a bit of crack. And certainly I do think from certain players' perspective, I think Scar, for instance, is a more competitive player at heart than Qtpie.
Voyboy never even wanted to play competitively. All you want to do is play.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like they're all playing together. They're all friends. There's this attitude of like, oh, it'll be fun because we're playing with each other. There's not going to be so much pressure on us because we will be putting pressure on each other. So certainly, I don't know how they'll do. Certainly, they do have like talent. They're top level players. They're all challenger. They have a lot of experience. It will be kind of intimidating, I'd say, because they don't have that pressure on them, and other players do. I don't know how kind of. I'm almost going to say healthy for the challenger scene, because it is kind of like almost
making. Well, the challenger scene's going to go anyway.
Yeah, again, this is the point. Thing, yeah. But certainly, it's kind of it is what it is, and it's definitely going to put a bigger spotlight. And a lot of people are saying, the next Challenger game will have more views than the LCS. So it's definitely going to put a big old spotlight, and it gets a lot of people hyped up. So,
while we can talk down, the level of play these guys will be seeing, we don't know what Fox CEO Jace Hall knows. And what he said is that when these guys play, you're going to see high level play unlike anywhere else. So that's all we know. This NA Challenger scene team full of kind of like broken and crippled old men, like being dragged onto stage.
It's like this is like
arthritic.
This is like the fourth Indiana Jones movie. It's getting too old.
Yeah.
In all fairness, all these players are like 28 or something. It's hardly.
Hands don't work anymore.
But yeah, certainly they're not like. I don't think the age is the point. It's more just that they haven't been playing competitively for years.
Motivation.
Yeah.
But I think it will be fun, and also a big thing is that they probably won't tilt, because like there's no real tilt lords in there.
Oh yeah, I don't think
they'll all just be kind of trying to have fun and stuff. But they probably just, it's more just like they go behind 5 kills early. They just go like.
I think Shifter. I actually forgot Shifter's on the team. He's
the least sexy name there.
Yeah, no, but he's the most recent professional Shifters.
When did he retire?
Although I'm wondering, he was on Dignitas, wasn't he? Shifter. I think
Shifter's on a few teams.
I thought he joined Dignitas after Voivod left or something.
I would have thought Dyrus had been the most recent there.
I think Shifter might have been more. Maybe not. Again, they're all big names. You'd recognize Shifter, even though he wouldn't be as a high-profile streamer like Voiboy or I'm a Qtpie. But yeah, so that's news.
It's kind of that news.
That's news.
So I guess that kind of leads into the discussion on kind of franchising and stuff then.
Yeah. I guess we'll just head into the big dark.
Oh wait, so you want to do that for like the main show, but like, we were kind of discussing whether we'd want to do like a pre-show and a main show for this episode, even though it's all kind of pre-show.
Yeah, I don't really see the need to create a distinction there, so I think we'll go directly into
go straight into that.
I'll allow you to go directly into the LCS discussion. So
on the LCS discussion, they released an article called "Evolution of the NA LCS," and basically Riot's in kind of meme killing mode right now. They're sort of that is in itself a meme being created, so they're probably going to have to kill that by no longer killing memes. But anyway, what they've been doing is they're just giving everyone what they want. So with this evolution in LCS, it seems like a lot of really good changes. So what they're doing is they're trying to firstly change League to encourage people to invest over a long time. Secondly, make it better for pros by increasing their salaries. And what's the third one? And thirdly, sharing League. What was the third one? They're trying to share it around a lot more with the money.
Certainly all the feedback from the community seems super positive. I do have some problems. So basically, again, to reiterate.
Well, what are they doing?
The big changes are, number one, relegation is being removed from the league. You can no longer get relegated at the end of each season. Doesn't matter if you come in 9th place. What that will do is affect the overall. There's going to be a monetary incentive now to do well in the league, as opposed to being a position incentive leading up to Worlds, which would then give you that monetary incentive. So if you win Worlds, which is a very distant prospect in the future currently, you do get money, but coming 3rd instead of 7th in the LCS doesn't give you anything. As far as I know currently, I don't think there's any monetary incentive.
I actually didn't know.
I'm not sure if there is, but it certainly seems like in the article they allude to changing it so you do get incentive, so maybe they're just upping it. But yeah, so that's a big one. So basically, the other kind of big lead on from that is now there are going to be 9 permanent. I say permanent with a little asterisk beside it, because it's not necessarily permanent. They say that if you lose something like 5 splits in a row, you come last, you can get relegated again. It's kind of like, okay, might happen, might not. But so they will be 9. There's 9 teams in LCS, isn't there? 10. 10 permanent teams.
10.
In LCS, and so they've kind of. It's interesting because they've really talked about how they want there to be like a lot of communication and a lot of kind of working together between Riot and these big brands, and they've specifically talked about how they want to kind of share the money both from the brand sponsorships and also from the money that's being made by Riot off LCS. So it's kind of, definitely they want to make it more of a group thing. They want both the teams to contribute themselves to LCS, but they also want the teams to get something out of it. So yeah, they basically said that they're going to be reviewing the teams, kind of the LCS. They're going to be receiving applications for permanent members of the LCS, and those teams are going to be in the LCS. So this is going to involve stuff like the team. They have an application process there, which is basically going to involve managers, going to involve management, going to involve releasing your
brand.
You have to. Again, I found this was one of the most kind of interesting ones. First of all, they have positive steps. Like they want the players to have. They've got the income for players, sort of a thing. They want the brands, the teams, to be able to pay the players consistently. They want the teams to have a good housing for the players. They want all that infrastructure to be there. That's important, and they basically are going to require the teams to demonstrate this to them before they allow the team to have that permanent spot in the LCS. So that's good. Another one is, again, the team has to demonstrate, all, like teams that are in the LCS right now mightn't be doing as well. Their spot will speak for them. The fact that they've continually put up good results, that'll be another thing. They've talked about how, there was discussion on Reddit about how, a team that's been in the LCS might get knocked out because a team with more money, sort of a thing, will come in and will just pay for its way into the LCS, which is unfair in many ways. And so Reddit basically said, well, no, of course, the spot they've had will speak for themselves. The results they put up will speak for themselves. Now, the other thing, as I was just saying, is they basically want the team to apply on a basis of branding on how they're going to appeal to fans, which I think is questionable because it is pragmatic, but I feel like it's very anti the spirit of kind of competition, in that it's like a sport in its essence. I think should be all about achieving the highest level of play, and sure, looking for teams to have good gaming house, good infrastructure, good payment, so the players don't have to worry about all these things, are super important for both the quality of life for the players, again, their mental well-being. They've talked about how teams that are looking to provide well for players post their career, again, that'll be very important. Again, it's all about providing healthy infrastructure. But looking for teams to kind of appeal well to fans, and this seems to be a big part, there's a whole section in their thing, is teams, how are you going to look to create and to motivate a fan base and to maintain that fan base? How are you looking to market towards a fan base? And this is kind of going to be an important part of them even getting into LCS, which on one hand, okay, certainly it's been a problem with certain CS around the world. Like Europe certainly has a lot of problems with their teams achieving that follower base. But I feel like basing the position of these teams in the LCS on whether or not they have a fan base or whether or not they can keep or maintain or get a fan base is that shouldn't be what it's about. It shouldn't be about that kind of competition.
I think it makes this kind of sporting purist inside you kind of a bit queasy when you've got the idea of, we no longer have this kind of raw sporting, if you can't make it, you are destroyed, you are thrown into the incinerator if you can't make it. But so it was what did we lose? We lost this incentive, this kind of fight to the death and a pure sporting level of who can survival of the fittest. What do we replace it with? It's is your brand strong enough? Can you think fluence your way into the LCS? It does seem a bit weird on that level where it's but things like marketing, things like your fan base now, it does seem a bit weird, but when you think of it practically, it makes sense because this stuff is actually very relevant, and it's just acknowledging, when I said pragmatic, it's just acknowledging the realities of what actually does matter for teams in the LCS. And what Riot want is they want a bunch of different teams and people supporting a bunch of different teams, because they don't want dead rubber matches. They don't want, so Echo Fox are playing fucking whoever the fuck this game. Combined, these guys have 1% of the fan base of TSM, right? So no one's going to be watching this match. They want people watching every match. They want people invested in every match. So they want fans of every team. They want there to be an LCS. They want to be a good amount of fans for every team. They want people invested in watching and interested. They want fans, because this is what it's about. It's about fans who are watching, who are they don't advertise, but they want people watching and stuff, because I don't even know how they make money. Yeah, but I'm not sure how they make money. But anyway, they want people watching these things. They want people invested. So they want teams to be able to appeal to fans. They want teams. So it makes sense. And the idea, and losing relegation in itself is kind of also a bit of an antithesis to sort of what sporting purists will want, because the idea of relegations is a big thing, kind of European sporting competitions, like in football, where You go down, even in your 18, 19, 20, the league at the end of the season, you drop down to the next division. But the reason it didn't work in league is because there wasn't really a next division. There was the challenger scene, which was kind of an incinerator. Sorry. I'm dying.
Well,
yeah, so it just wasn't the same thing. So in football or something, you've got like 5 different leagues in the football league in England. So when you get relegated, you're given all this money by the league, all parachute payments, right? So you'll lose loads of players because they want to stay in the Premier League. And you lose them, but you get all this money. You get money from selling these players. You buy new players, and then you're now in the next league, which is like 22 teams in it. And you compete against those 22 teams. And you can get back up to the league, or you can drop in another league. But there's all these teams. There's another league below you. There's still fans. Your fans will still go to you. You still have this giant stadium where teams can go. You're still being televised. You're still very much legitimately in the football league. But like in the challenger scene was such a brutal thing where just investors would just be completely uninterested. And so a big thing about this is they want advertisers and people to be investing into these teams. Because people were not investing into these teams when there was this risk of relegation. Something like that. Why would you invest into, like, we just use Equifax again. So like Equifax, who might be at risk of relegation, like even if it's a small risk, it's kind of an existential risk. And so they can't guarantee investors they're going to stay up.
Yeah, so
now they can, and therefore more money flowing in, which will kind of benefit everyone, including players and including fans. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it does seem very savvy in terms of the financial standpoint. Again, I'm not too sure about the decisions if they're being made for the right reasons. So again, the removal of relegation was stated as being because people weren't willing to invest, because people were willing to put the effort, the money, the commitment into teams that could be relegated. Now, I feel like this is kind of, I don't know if that's the right reason to remove relegation. I feel like removing relegation because people don't want to put money into your league is kind of, well, I feel like you could maybe fix relegation as opposed to just removing it. Like, I feel like maybe they could have set up, like they are looking to set up the challenger scene. Again, in a way, I'm not too sure if I'm happy about it. So what they're doing with the challenger scene, first of all, just to preface my problems with it, is there's no longer going to be random challenger teams in the challenger scene. It's going to be academy teams for LCS teams. So these brands are going to have a far-reaching position. So basically, the 10 LCS teams, 10 brands that they've selected through application processes, through how their infrastructure is, through their fan base, these are now going to have 10 drop-down teams, which are going to be challenger. And these teams are going to be kind of recruiting from the challenger scene. They're going to be playing against each other. It's going to be a real field for talent, moving up to the LCS. Now, I don't know how I feel about that, because I actually feel like the original challenger scene I feel like it epitomized the kind of the tiers of league. So it was like, you go from silver, you go from gold, just skipping bronze there. You go from silver, gold, platinum, diamond, masters, challenger. Now you're really good, right? Now you're like, you're still at home, still on your computer, but you're a challenger player. You're top 0.01% of the League of Legends player base, whatever it is. And then you're moving up. You're a mid challenger. You're top challenger. Like now you're almost like people say like challenger players play in LCS. Like now you're in a challenger team. And like, sure, players from Challenger get recruited directly to LCS teams, happens all the time, but the epitome of like forming a Challenger team out of other Challenger players, going through the Challenger circuit, as a lot of teams have done, winning, actually as a lot of teams have done, most teams have done, obviously there's been teams that have been, rocks in the LCS, and then winning it, getting swapped up through the relegation from the LCS team that wasn't performing, and now you are in the LCS. And you have examples of teams like this. I'm trying to think of ones that just like powered through the next split. What was that team?
C9.
I mean, yeah, sorry, C9. C9 was a challenger team. And they were just 5 really top-notch, hyped up challenger players. And everyone was like, we don't know any of them. Like C9, now we see them as having a player base, having been consistent. That's because they've been
they're all like legends now.
But that's not because they've just been there. Like they've been playing really well consistently for however many splits at this point. And they were just godlike their first 3 splits. After they came to the LCS, it wasn't like a slow hype up. So I feel like that was like the epitome of like the success story of League. And sure, it doesn't really matter too much for the most of League of Legends players. Most players are kind of, just playing for fun or just casual. But I do feel like that kind of getting the challenger, going pro, I mean, sure, you can still get picked up. And with the new system, it'll basically be like, the challenger scene will still be a pool that these academy teams will be drawing from. But I'm not too sure how they're going to kind of work the challenger scene in terms of the academy teams. But as far as I know, there won't really be any incentive to win that challenger 5v5s.
Well, I mean, you're trying to get yourself noticed anyway. But I mean, like, I kind of get where you're coming from, that it's kind of this nice linear progression from kind of like the American dream where you can sort of come up and then
well, I guess all my problems are that they're kind of getting rid of the ideals.
Pull up your bootstraps and just sort of like fix that. But like, I mean, and because when you say something like, well, I see they're doing it for like quote unquote financial reasons, or so they can get investors. Like, that sounds kind of sort of like pithy and like minors. All they want to do is get investors. Like, well, that's actually an existential threat for the league. Like, the league needs to go on. It needs to like, you know what I mean? It will stop if people aren't investing in it. Like, LCS will not exist anymore if people are not investing in it, and if there's no money going into it. So this is obviously a change that needed to happen, because otherwise it's an unsustainable model as it was. That's what most people were saying. Like, franchising was not like, you know, like, oh, maybe we'll do franchising, maybe it was more just like, we need franchising because there is no alternative. The only alternative is LCS, like, does not existing anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, if we could throw out buzzwords, if we could throw out tags for the changes that have to do with the NALCS, I think the number one would be stability, because it's like, it all seems to be, we're going to conglomerate all the money, we're going to both pool our money with you, but you're also going to be required to pool your money with us, we're going to give more stable salaries, we're going to be more stable in terms of, like, they don't want stuff coming out about teams where, oh, the teams aren't playing their players, oh, they don't have a contract, oh, these players are kind of getting thrown into the ether. They've talked about how they don't want players to fall through the cracks in the kind of the phase moving forward. But I think the biggest move is towards having this kind of rock hard base that they can build competitiveness on, which I think is positive in many ways.
Mentioned the fact they're like tripling the base salary and stuff.
Yes, the original base salary was 25,000. Now it's 75, which is a damn good salary. $75. $75,000, I think, is pretty good.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah, that wouldn't be that.
I think
it's for
my brother's in America. I think he's going to pay 40. I think that's good.
Really? Yeah.
I mean, I'm not too sure. But again, on top of that, they've talked about in the article, I don't know how it'll work out, but they've talked about how they want these teams, the sponsors, to be looking out for the players post their career. So they don't want them to just be dropped off wherever they want. They're looking for them to facilitate them moving on with whatever studies, with college, with which is something that, you know, isn't something they kind of need to say, because it's not something people necessarily want to hear. Like, we're going to facilitate you when you move on, which is implying that people will move on. An awful lot of people, when they look at the Challenger circuit, they want it to be like an evergreen, forever thing. You know, CNN will always be there. Like, TSM will always be there. No, players aren't leaving, and it is kind of like a sad thing when players retire, when they're like, I've had enough of this. I want to move on with my life, which is kind of like it's not like but I mean, it is kind of like okay, you're leaving league.
People go pretty teary when Darius retires.
Yeah, so I think talking about that and being, you know, open about, you know, we're going to facilitate that, so it'll be a happy thing, and you won't have to, you know, be kind of like dropped off the deep end and be kind of streaming and not really sure what to do with your life. Which, if you look at the number of people who've left LCS, I mean, sure, I'm sure lots of happy stories that I don't know about, but a lot of the bigger...
Very happy story, making more than anyone has ever made on anything ever.
It's just he's set for life now. But the most League of Legends players, or a lot of League of Legends players who've left, I've kind of seen streaming on and off, like even EU players kind of streaming, not really, then maybe coming back, and then kind of... It seems to be very messy anyway, in terms of the post-league. What's there for them? There doesn't seem to be any support. And so definitely that's a positive step, I think, moving forward.
Yeah.
Will we allude to having taken a little break there?
Yeah, I'll say something.
I'll say something there.
No, because
I'll talk to
I have
people.
a funny way of saying it.
Okay, cool.
It's going to be hilarious, okay?
Okay.
This would be an all-time classic moment in the Paddock Egg podcast. Are you ready?
Don't smile, Andy.
Don't smile. It's a podcast.
No, you have to.
Welcome back. We had a small break there because my dog didn't run away, but he pretended to run away. And last week when we recorded the podcast, he actually did run away, so I don't trust him. He's been locked away inside the house.
That's not that funny.
It turns out I was joking on. The funny bit was me pretending that was going to be funny. Before we started recording, I was like, and I'll explain this. It's going to be hilarious. Okay, nice. And he was really excited.
I was just
What were you just?
I thought my mic fell off for a sec.
Okay. No. So next thing we'll be talking about, the next bit of the deluge of information that's been heaped upon us in the League community this week will be patch 7.11.
Maybe not to Reforged next?
No, it will build up to Reforged. That's the big one.
Okay, so this isn't like ground shaking, it's just a pretty large patch. Couple of meaty reworks thrown in there. It's a funny word, isn't it? So yeah, big ones. A lot of big nerfs as well. But specifically some champions like Kindred, Rek'Sai. What's the other big one?
It was just those two.
Kindred and Rek'Sai are the two big reworks anyway. I mean, they're not full reworks, like the champion still has the same kit, just in terms of the numbers. I mean, sorry, don't just have the same kit. Rek'Sai was a bit bigger than. But yeah, so let's just go through it. We're not going to go through everything in the patch. We've done that before. It's not particularly exciting, just reading through all the numbers, all the little itemization changes and stuff. We're just going to kind of talk about the big points. So yeah, specifically Kindred and Rek'Sai are the big ones for this patch.
So Rek'Sai's kind of an interesting one because they kind of did to her what they've been, they ended up being kind of successful with what they've been trying to do to Echo for like such a long time. And that was like, they didn't really like the tanky builds. They didn't really like the bruiseriness of Rek'Sai. They basically said like the fantasy of Rek'Sai is you are this predator who's lurking and hunting and tunneling. And her playstyle ended up being not really that. It more ended up being kind of this kind of stun bot. Well, not a stun bot, that's at least like a knock-up bot. Where you basically you're supporting teammates, you're tanky, you're just knocking people up, and then you're setting other people up. That's not really the fantasy. So what they did was just completely change all her numbers such that you really, ideally now, you're incentivized to build full AD on her.
Well, yeah, a lot of AD to build bruiser or at least build AD, not like before where you could build full tank Rek'Sai.
Well, what I'm reading anyway, a lot of people are saying is basically full AD is the way to go because they basically just ramped up all her bonus AD ratios like huge amount. They changed her Prey Seeker to now be physical damage and also be scale of bonus AD. Her she generates Fury really, really quickly, but her healing's like way down.
Yeah.
And so she gets her double damage, true damage E really, really quickly now. And everything's got a higher AD ratio. So it sounds like, but so this is all in theory anyway. And also they changed her ultimate. So now her ultimate, instead of being this very strong global where you can just use to get around the map really easily, which wasn't the most exciting thing in the world, but was very effective, particularly in pro play, which lent a lot of her power to her kit. It's now more akin to her theme, which is kind of like Nocturne ult.
Yeah, so certainly big changes. I mean, I think the ult is almost the biggest change. Well, obviously it's the biggest change that couldn't change the ability. But no, certainly with her other three abilities, it's all been about. Well, she didn't change her Qtpie very much, but with her other abilities, it's been very much about kind of the echo changes. Reducing the base damage, increasing vastly the bonus damage. I think now it's also similar to Kindred. It's not just based on. I think some of the numbers aren't based off total AD, they're based off bonus AD, which they do with Kindred as well, and we'll go on to that a bit later. So it's all about building AD, doing damage, being scary, not throwing a little like magic damage missile from under the ground. Like that was all kind of goofy.
It's like the least exciting ability of all time.
Yeah, it is.
Is like tank, Rek'Sai, Prey Seeker. Like what the fuck is that ability?
It's decent early. It just kind of does nothing.
So.
It's all about checking where they are as well. I mean, which I do think makes sense. And it doesn't necessarily need to do that much damage to be, thematic and fun to play with. It is quite a fun ability. You get a little
do you remember AP Rek'Sai?
It was the what was it called? The submarine.
Yeah, shooting missile.
That was goofy. Yeah. That was pretty interesting. But no, so I don't actually personally think she's very good at the moment. I played one game yesterday, and I played as Kindred. Now my name in League this is a funny little side note.
We talked about this last week.
But it's still funny.
We talk about everything.
So I've almost never played Kindred. I've played maybe 10 games of Kindred altogether. And my name's Kindred Spirit, and everyone thinks I'm Kindred One Track, and people are always like, "Are you gonna play Kindred's game?" And I've never played. So it's always been scary for me to play her in games because people assume I'm really good. So I don't really want to practice her because people are always like, "Oh."
Well, why did you call yourself a Kindred Spirit?
He
just randomly changed his name one day to a Kindred Spirit.
I was called the Weatherman.
This was because the Kindred had just come out actually. She'd literally come out like that day, and I just came on. He changed his name to a Kindred Spirit, and I was like, "So you're really going for it?" He was like, "Oh, Kindred looks so cool. I might want to one trick her," and I was like, "Oh yeah, so are you one tricking Kindred?" And he was just like, Not really, no. I just kind of like the name. What?
I actually do quite like the name, and I stick with it.
It's an
I'm
okay name,
called
yeah.
Kindred in most games, but so yeah, returning
Sorry,
from that little
side note.
To Rek'Sai. So no, sorry, I was talking about Kindred. So yeah, I played one game. I was Kindred versus Rek'Sai. In all fairness, he was like gold 5 or something. He wasn't very good. He didn't really know what he was doing, so it wasn't really. And I just kind of like played Kindred like reasonably well, and we just destroyed them because I'm so good. I like to play reasonably well and just shit all over everyone.
About Rek'Sai.
But yeah, so about Rek'Sai, I kind of feel like, so first of all, I'm going to make the comparison to Nocturne with him, because I feel like it's a reasonable comparison to make. His ultimate is kind of similar to a Nocturne ult, except he has to have dealt damage to them, and it's a slightly shorter radius. But again, it's very much like for him now, it's very much an execute. So I feel like Rek'Sai is not a good kind of assassin. So his scalings are super good now. If you see the scaling on his ultimate, it's pretty damn scary. It's like 1.6 AD plus, friggin' 400 base damage or something. So a damn fine execute and mything health damage as well. Mything health.
Got some fucking Loco Doku shit in here.
But no, so it's good damages. But the key being, I actually think the only really decent synergy is obviously you can use Prey Seeker and then jump to them. But unless he lands his Prey Seeker, I feel like he just won't be able to do too much. So he's just kind of like the whole point of tank Rek'Sai was that he could kind of be underground, and you kind of like hit him, or it doesn't like he's tanky enough that he can take the hits. And because his gap closer is not fast, it's slow. He kind of goes, and he kind of have to maneuver himself. And he was very much before about kind of zoning people. They had to play around. They couldn't walk like past him, so he could kind of flank from behind with a tunnel, and players would kind of all diverge, and then he'd get a good knock up, or he'd flash
he had gang paths, like the bot lane gang path from top side. I never know the colours.
Oh, yeah,
but top side, he could go behind to bot lane.
Definitely one of the best early game gankers Rek'Sai was, and he still is. And I think that's definitely he'll still be decent. But
keep misgendering.
I feel like the ultimate change. So he no longer has that. So she no longer has the global ultimate, which is what made her so good in pro play. She was otherwise kind of just like a decent champion. So she's removed that. So now it's just kind of an execute. Something that I feel like is okay, but building her, I feel like, first of all, if she is played in pro play, she'll still be built like Bruiser. I feel like if she gets good, if she is decent in like solo queue, she'll still be a built Bruiser. I don't feel like you can build full AD on a champion that is that kind of tentative with its engages. Like, sure, she can fire off Prey Seeker. I feel like that's going to be the combo. Fire off Prey Seeker. The guy I was playing against didn't seem to really get that combo. He always tried to get an unearth or whatever when she knocks you up, and then ults a bit later, and it was kind of really bad because you could just kill him while he was like slowly tunneling towards you like a really slow shark. I don't know. I was looking at, I actually watched what's his name? Your man who plays Diana mid all the time. What's his name? Arc Second, sorry. Arc Second, he has a tier list, and he does a review after every patch. He does this tier list review where he basically goes through all the things that were changed, goes down, he has a whole big graph, and he basically changes or doesn't change or looks through it. So he went through the rest of the changes. He gave him still an A, and he said he's going to have to wait to see, which was a very conservative way to look at the changes. I was like, okay, well, that's kind of not being very exciting. But
she wasn't an A before, like.
She was an A before in the jungle. And I feel like she was a decent A before in the jungle.
Off a lot.
Yeah, she was still getting pro play though. Again, I think giving an A in a lot of roles isn't that hard. He gave Nasus an A top lane.
S, like,
S means like top tier.
Yeah.
A is kind of decent tier, and then B is like not very good. So his tier list isn't like crazy. There aren't too many tiers. But so I don't know. I think it really depends on how well her ult. I haven't seen her. I haven't played her, so I don't know how well her abilities synergize together. From what I can see, she looks kind of clunky with that ult on top of such kind of a slow engage kit, but it'll have to really depend. And it'll depend on itemization and a lot of things. And maybe, who knows, maybe she'll just be terrifying. Maybe she'll just be really powerful. Maybe she'll
because like bonus AD ratios are great, but I mean, if you want really good AD ratios, like play Wukong. But like, doesn't mean he's a good champion. You can have these ridiculous AD ratios, but you still need to be able to get onto people, survive, like hit them enough, like.
And so I feel like she's like the classic important thing for assassin is a way to get out if they go in.
Yeah,
like let's say she Qs and then she ults, she just dies. Like she can only build so much AD. She has to obviously build some health or some tankiness with that kit. And sure, maybe she can poke with Q a fair bit and be decent, but she's gonna have to build some defensive stats. And if not, like there's so many other champions that does what she would be doing, except so much better. Like Nocturne is just godlike at one-shotting, jumping
Nocturne,
on.
yeah,
like I feel like Nocturne would still be almost better. Like Nocturne's got a little bit of play in the LCS, very smattered. A couple of people playing on what I saw. But I feel like he just kind of does that better. Like he has massive AD ratios. He gets a lot of AD off his Q. He can actually build kind of tanky while still doing damage because of the AD he gets off his Q. He has a spell shield. He has attack speed. He has a fear. All really good things for an assassin. And also his ult is just really good utility. And if you're going to compare the two, I just feel like now Rek'Sai is not as good, especially with the fact that her being a kind of really useful in pro play as well because of her whatever prey sense or whatever it was called. Well, the tremor sense. Sorry, was so useful. But also because she was tanky, so you couldn't really engage on her even when she was kind of like looking around and kind of getting little bits of vision. Like you couldn't jump her. Whereas if she builds AD, you can, and you just kill her.
Like we used to joke about how similar Rek'Sai was to Nocturne when she came out.
Oh, in terms of visuals, yeah.
Yeah, like visuals, and even like kind of like this like AOE like auto attacks and like kind of like Assassinina.
Yeah.
And then they like changed her ult to make her even more like Nocturne. It's pretty funny. Yeah, and Saint Vicious was kind of shitting on her. He was saying she's pretty bad now. Dominate was saying, it's actually a pretty fun little Twitter feud. The Dominate was like, he thinks she's pretty good, but he reckons he needs to build full AD on her. And then St. Vicious responded, was like, yeah, well, you're probably playing like Diamond 2. And you're Diamond 2 Smurf. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm playing my Master Smurf. And they had this little spat, so I'm not sure who you'd even go for in that situation. St. Vicious is
there was just unpleasant characters.
So yeah, that's Rek'Sai anyway. Other time they got redone is the one and only Kindred. So like, I think Kindred rework was a cool idea in that I think they tried to make her more of a marksman and also like less of a jungler, more of a marksman. They kind of noted in their patch changes that kind of marksman and jungler as two distinct identities is almost a zero-sum game. Junglers want to be strong early, be able to gank early. Marksmen are kind of defined by the fact they're weak early and they scale well into the late game. And so it's kind of, they're two identities that are difficult to coalesce into one champion. And so what they kind of did was they took the scale from, it was leaning towards jungler and they moved a bit more towards marksman. So she's not strong early, but she's scaling better. She's got this infinite range that she can get as she gets more stacks off her passive. What they also did was that they kind of made her identity stronger, because one of the big things we've noticed about Kindred before is that I'll go with her proper pronoun would be they then. So the thing about Kindred is that they are supposed to be this dual champion. And you can notice how I was switching into she there was because that identity pretty much failed. That fantasy was not a success in that they played basically as a single champion. You basically were playing as Lamb, and occasionally Wolf would show up in the background. But what they've done now is made, among other things, they have made Wolf a much more core part of the gameplay, where you do need, a lot of your damage is going to depend on whether Wolf is actually there, whether you can hit people with Wolf and whether he's there. Once Wolf is there, your damage is amplified a huge amount. And once he's not there, you're a hell of a lot weaker then.
Yeah, so played a game with Kindred. I played with Kindred before. I don't know how much I like the changes, I'm going to be honest. I feel like it's a positive step. I feel like it's a really annoying kind of... I felt like before her gameplay was unfortunately really polarized and that she was either too strong or too weak. I feel like that's still going to be kind of a bit of a problem. I feel like it's just so similar with this kind of feast or famine junglers. Like Graves is kind of one as well. I feel like Graves is always kind of a bit too strong or a bit too weak because he's so kind of farm heavy. With Kindred, I feel like the changing, for instance, they really want to get rid of this kind of attack speed, on hit, really tanky Kindred where you could go stuff like Blood Razor into Frozen Mallet, into Hurricane, into Blade of the Rune King, do loads of damage, be really annoying, be really strong on kind of all points of the game. And she kind of scaled pretty well as well because her marks gave her, like, once you had 10 marks, you were getting 10% current health physical damage. And she could build kind of like tanky pen items and attack speed and be really obnoxious. Like Black Cleaver was good. Whereas now what they're really doing is they're getting rid of her on-it effect, which made all attack speed items really strong on her. I mean, she didn't have to build that much AD, and they're now giving her attack speed and range, which are things that you would generally associate with marksman. So they're encouraging building more AD. They're also shifting an awful lot of her damage onto bonus AD as opposed to being flat AD. They're really upping the bonus AD ratios. They're really gutting the flat, not too much, but they are gutting the flat values of her abilities. Another change I think, which actually does also encourage, is the fact that they're removing the W damage from being physical to magic damage. So that means she can't really build stuff like Black Cleaver and just do a lot of damage, and Blade of Rune can do a lot of damage. She needs to, I mean, building back here from the ranking should still do a lot of damage, and I still feel like that's kind of the build people are going to go. But in order to do a lot of damage, she needs to build AD items. She needs to build items that synergize well with each other in terms of attack speed. She can't just build, let's say, Blood Razor, Frozen Mallet, and attack speed items and expect to do a lot of damage, because her autos don't have it. I feel like a lot of people have kind of forgotten that. When I look at pro builds, I was looking at pro builds yesterday and seeing what people have been building on her since the rework in that kind of day, and people are still building similar items. I built similar-ish items, and I didn't feel like she did that much damage. I feel like you really do need to build a bit more AD to do it, but again, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are.
They ramped her ratios up that much though. Like they increased her Q ratio from 0.2 total to 0.65 bonus, but her Q ratio before was nothing.
Yeah,
like, it was non-existent.
This is actually why I don't. This is why I don't think she's actually that much stronger than she was. So again, on ArcSecond's video, he just straight up swapped her from an A to an S. I don't necessarily think she was an A before. I think she was a B. Video. Yeah, but so he was just like, yeah, I'm gonna give her an S for now. And then he went on to the next champion, and I was like, So I think people are underestimating the loss of marks as 1% current health damage, which was like really big. Like once you get 10 marks, you're doing crazy damage. Whereas now, once you're getting 10 marks, you have a bit more attack speed on your Q, and you have a bit more range, like good range. But you don't have the damage there. And like, sure, they didn't up her ratios that much, but she just doesn't, like you kind of, and I'm not saying you have to build AD because you're getting crazy damage off her ratios. I'm saying you have to build AD because otherwise you don't really do damage, or you don't do enough damage. Because specifically, like with like, I would be like, I was like 4 items or something. I think I built Blood Razor, and I feel like this is going to be an interesting thing now with her kind of wanting more AD. Will people build Warrior into attack speed item, or will people build Blood Razor into AD item? Is a big question. I went Blood Razor into AD item. I went Blood Razor into Black Cleaver, and then I built Phantom, or then I built I'm trying to remember, Hurricane, and then I was going to build I think I built Death's Dance. I was kind of building slightly kind of items that would give me a bit of health, a bit of damage, which worked out okay. But I did feel like, let's say, an AD carry who was just building straight up AD carry items would just kind of destroy me in a fight. Even though I had a bit more range, they just 4 autos from them would do so much more damage to 4 autos than me, even with my Wolf's passive. And sure, Kindred's still utility. Building those items give you a slightly better early mid game, but I don't know. I'll have to see how it works out. I certainly don't think the changes were like a really crazy strong rework. It didn't feel for me. For instance, I was crazy efficient with my marks that game, and I got about 7 marks at like 10 minutes, and I didn't feel that strong. With 7
it's not
marks.
as much of an instant impact.
Yeah, and I feel like while they should definitely reduce her early game and give her a slower curve, I feel like being that efficient early should still help you early more than just giving you a little bit of attack speed, a little bit of range. And I didn't feel like it gave me enough power. I didn't feel stronger in terms of if I just encountered someone in the jungle, like that much stronger, that it really made that much difference. Whereas before, if I had 7 marks, I was dealing massive damage early, and I felt like it was really impactful. And I guess they're trying to remove that feast or famine. Like if you get marks, you win. If you don't get marks, you lose. They're trying to make her more balanced, and sure, marks are meant to be more of a utility thing rather than just like a whoa, I need them. But I don't know. I don't know how successful the rework goes.
Yeah, and so we're running kind of long already. We've got lots still to talk about. But to me, we did ask. You were saying earlier there was like, only 2 champions got reworked. Malzahar actually also got changed a little bit.
Oh god.
But he's Owen's.
Has
to be Owen's least favorite.
Whenever I see Malzahar in like patch notes or anything, I'm always just like,
we're going to start playing him again.
Yeah, well, especially when he's in a position like he is now, where he's still incredibly annoying and frustrating to play against, but he's weak enough that you can kind of get past that and be like, well, I only see him in 1 out of every 20 games, and when I do, he's generally not that strong.
Owen hates Malzahar,
but they're buffing him now.
Well,
they're
not
buffing him.
They're
making him playable though.
No, but they killed support Malzahar.
Well, support Malzahar was already dead.
Sorry, I'm coughing so much this episode. But they killed support Malzahar by what they did was.
They reduced his early game voidlings.
They killed his voidlings and they put more damage into his normal abilities. It's Malzahar. I mean, is there really that much to say about him? He seems pretty strong. He's much better shoving mid lane now, but his voidlings basically die with like 1 auto attack. They basically killed support Malzahar, turned him back into a mid laner.
Champagne was just a complete failure in terms of the rework.
I hate Malzahar so much.
It was such a failure.
I kind of want to start picking up Malzahar. But anyway, that's him.
Yes.
There's not really that much to say. I was watching Scar playing. He seems pretty decent mid laner, kind of like old Malzahar. Like he doesn't change much, does he?
Thank God we're back to old Malzahar.
They happened to give him an iconic ability, which is the least interesting ability in the game. His ult. So that whenever they've tried to change him, they just have to keep that ability, and then he ends up just being the same champion no matter what they do.
Yeah, an ult bot. Like, just doesn't do anything unless he has ult.
Yeah,
So.
but thankfully the support one's dead, because people were playing support Malzahar a lot, not like recently, but that was his most play he's ever gotten as a champion. He's been around for a while. So.
There's another couple of like nerfs and buffs.
Sorry.
Throughout the patch, little bug changes, stuff like, I mean, there were some changes like Caitlyn, for instance, her passive no longer stacks off Runaan's Hurricane. That was a pretty big change.
Yeah, they nerfed her pretty hard.
Yeah, people are saying she'll be good. I think she still will be good. You know, a lot of nice little bug fixes in terms of like.
You see what they did to Renekton?
Yeah, they reverted it. They completely reverted it. Which I think is fair.
Poor Renekton's been so buggy for so long, dude.
Yeah. There was we're not going to go into the rest of the patch because we have an awful lot more to talk about. Again, they changed some icons this patch. GA is gone, which I think is pretty iconic. GA's been in the game since its creation. With that iconic, image, it's now a completely different one.
I do miss.
Said a little prayer for GA.
GA is weird. Like, see, I missed. Just as a quick aside, because we're sort of low on time, we might as well just tell random asides. I missed basically, because during when I was doing exams and stuff, I just wasn't playing League. This happened to be a time where they just rework loads of items, they like rework loads of champions. Like, I don't actually know what new GA does. Does it give you AD now or something?
It does. It's just an AD item that gives you armor and AD, and otherwise it's pretty much the same.
Oh, it's from Cassiopeia. Anyway, yeah, there's just a one random. So I always see these random items and like.
But now you can.
What items are like? I've played like 10 rankings.
But now you can build Banshees on AP carries.
Oh, yeah,
which is another defensive AP item. So
start getting on Heimer.
They have Zhonya's and Banshees, which is pretty good.
Moving along swiftly to the next topic. So we'll do Honor and then Runes Reforged.
Sure.
So Honor. Honor's probably the least inspiring thing in League of Legends. Basically, after you finish a game, you click on someone. There's 10 little button next to someone's name. You can click on them.
I can't
choose
remember
3
the
things
last
to
time
give
I've
them.
honored someone.
I honor people actually quite a bit. I don't get honored that often.
I'd say it was like a year.
Really? I'm always honoring people.
I just leave post screen, or I look at my own stats. Then
it's less of a, as it currently stands, it's less of a kind of functional system whereby you can give people this reward, however small, and it's more of a slightly more complicated way of typing out good game to them, or like typing out like you were a good teammate. So it's kind of a nice thing that you can have it show up after because when you finish a game, it pops up like +1 teamwork or something. You're like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So you can do that to people right now, but it's completely inconsequential. It not only does it not disincentivize toxicity, which is its initial intention, but it also doesn't reward honorable play, which was another part of it. So I think honor is kind of split between these two things. You're like wondering, like, right, on one hand, they want people to be incentivized to be nicer, so they want honor to overall make everybody nicer and less toxic, and they also want the people who are already nice, or the people who are nice, to get rewards for that, so they feel better about being nice, so they're incentivized to stay nice.
Yeah.
So honor is kind of like these two different things, and so what they're doing now with honor, so that's just as a thing, they're basically making it like Overwatch. So when you finish a game of Overwatch, a thing pops up.
Play of the game where you pick your.
Yeah, not play the game, but you can basically select. It's been a while since I played Overwatch, but you can. It'll pop up with like a few of the heroes in that game who did the best, and it'll be like, so Mercy, she healed this much, or like Roadhog, he hooked this many people. You're like, well, I think Roadhog just like kept killing this game. I'll give him a thing, and then if enough people vote him, it'll hit like boom, 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 and he'll get all these things, and then Roadhog will be like, yeah, and then the person who played Roadhog feels good about themselves, and there you go. So what they're doing with this instead, which makes a lot more sense than the Overwatch one, to be honest, is this, except for teammates. And so all the champions will pop up at the end of a game, and you'll be like, you'll have all the different champions. You'll be like, well, I thought that the Janna this game was really good with their tornadoes. And so I'll give her, no, there's 3, sorry, there's 1 kept her cool. It's like, oh, I thought our top lane Tryndamere got camped, but he kept trying, he didn't rage, I did well, so kept her cool. Or you can say, oh, those are really good shot calling.
They're also hip now. It's kept their cool. It was like good shot calling.
I think that's cool because I think that's clearly an incentive one. They want people to incentivize things because they want them to. Once someone starts getting camped, they're like, I want to keep my cool. So that's the training one. There's no one's great shot calling. So if someone does a good Baron call,
the report options are now going to be lost their cool. Bad shot calling. They're going to be.
Yeah, shot calling. And then the third one is just being a great teammate. So it's like, oh, I just thought that person's really set and good to play with. And so at the end of the game, they'll pop up and you choose one, and then it'll pop up, boom, 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 to see whoever gets the most. Yeah. And it's just clearly a much better system.
They're also going to, they've talked about, basically they're going to now combine kind of the whole kind of rune, or, boxes and keys and all those rewards. They're now going to kind of combine them with. They're basically saying honor is no longer just going to be a cosmetic reward. It's going to actually give you stuff. It's going to give you skins. It's going to give you boxes.
Have they confirmed that? I thought they were just kind of vague. They were like, it will give you rewards. I don't know if they actually specified.
I'm pretty sure they did confirm it. Okay, maybe I'm kind of just talking off here, but from what I know, they're going to kind of combine those two. So basically, having more honor will either increase the number of chests you get or give you certain rewards when you reach certain tiers or whatever. I'm not too sure.
About that though, because how it works is like they've got kind of these like badges and stuff, and like you'll go up honor grades. Like,
well, they said in the video
and you
that
can
they
go
were
down and up and stuff. And they're like you'll be getting stuff for it, but I don't know if are you sure they specified like you're getting like loot and stuff for it.
No,
I wouldn't guarantee that. Anyway.
Okay, so we're not guaranteeing it.
Yeah,
that's my little 2 cents on it. What they do. What else was I going to say on it? I do hope they. For instance, there's some things that I have kind of like. I almost hope if you, let's say, have a duo partner, if they reduce or they remove the chance that you can just honor them, because I do feel like that's something that just happens in games where you have to honor. Sorry,
I would never honor you.
Well, of course, but if you're playing with someone, you both just honor each other after every game, and while sure, I feel like that just reduces the chance of like you can both be toxic and just honor each other. It just kind of reduces the chance of people who have actually like played well and. You know, and the whole thing is made, the fact that you have to honor someone is all for the fact that someone should get honor and someone's got to be nice on that team.
Oh, imagine if you said like the 4 lads playing you. You have to honor somebody.
You have to honor somebody.
God, you have to like grade your
team. Or
maybe
maybe you can just like abstain or something. But we don't know yet because it hasn't all been released. But I do hope there's, I mean, there probably won't be, and I guess it won't be that impactful, but it is kind of like, it would be nice if there was some sort of way to, you know, remove that option to honor a duo partner. So, because I just feel like it kind of is just kind of counterintuitive in terms of the system. It basically just means if you have a duo partner, you're going to have more honor on average than anyone else, which is just like, okay.
Yeah, what if you'll be? But what honor does, it raises a wider question of toxicity and incentives and disincentives and why people are toxic and stuff. And I think a pretty wide view will be that this sort of system, no matter how good it is, if someone's going to rage, they're going to rage. If someone's going to flame, they're going to flame. This lad who's screaming at me that my mother should get cancer and that I should go jump off a cliff because I'm a Jew, he is not going to be changed by the fact that he wants to get a little great teammate medal at the end of the game. And so that's probably all true. So I think honor, as I said before, as a disincentive, I think that will always be kind of a weak thing.
But on the middle ground, if you're like, I think it can help people who aren't just like flat out,
exactly, yeah.
just off the wall. And I feel like it's alright.
Yeah.
but yeah, it's certainly an incentive. It's not a disincentive, it's an incentive.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes in, is where there's not the person where you think, if you think of a toxic player, you think someone going nuts. But I think if you think of the person, a normal kind of league player who's had a couple bad games, and this person ganks their lane and they mess up the gank and they miss an easy skill shot and it goes out, it might stop that person from typing question mark. It might stop that person from saying, why did you do that? Something small. They might not type anything else for the rest of the game. But it might stop that tiny margin. That person might, maybe particularly in the early days of honor, people probably care about it less as it like a year into the honor system. But if this is a thing that people are starting, that people kind of want, then maybe it'll have that tiny little switch in someone's head. If they're a pretty normal kind of person, who might be saying something small, who might be putting out a little snarky comment, they might just, like ease off it then.
Yeah, and again, we're kind of pushing West on time, but I also feel like sure in a year's time, maybe people won't care maybe when this comes out, people might care more about it than they do in a year's time. I feel like that's natural. With the old honor system that we have, people actually were, I think, a lot nicer in games.
At the start was ridiculous.
At the very start, people were, but people were also genuinely friendlier in games because people did seem to care about those borders, and since then people have lost that. And I feel like constantly innovating, looking for new ways, revamping the system, looking for other ways to get people to be positive and to be happy and to be good teammates is important. And I feel like Riot continuing to do this is really good. And sure, maybe this won't be working in a year, but maybe then they'll be looking for something else. And I feel like innovating and always looking for good incentives, and like again the loot system, all these things going away. You don't get loot if you're toxic. You don't get any of that if you're toxic. If you've been banned or you've been got a chat restriction, you don't get loot. It says you're ineligible to receive those words.
Yeah, but on that as well, like even if it doesn't particularly function in a year's time as an effective disincentive, as an effective incentive, what it still will be is a reward for people who are already nice. Yeah. And if they can get something good then. And it's not all about, whipping the backs of the bad guys or turning the bad guys into good guys. Sometimes it can be nice to recognize the people who are already just decent people who are just trying to play the game and have fun. Sometimes they can feel like they're ignored, and like the kid in class who gets no attention, the good child who gets no attention because the bad child's always screaming and the parents always focus on them. Yeah. So that's giving them a lollipop. So.
And they've done that before with like little Christmas awards and stuff, but I feel like this seems to be a step looking to do that consistently and consistently give more rewards to people. Not just give them, let's say, the same rewards as someone who is just like kind of quiet or is kind of like not that toxic. Like in terms of removing loot and stuff because you're toxic. Like it's basically just like, we're going to give you positive stuff because you're nice and you're good. Yeah, so on that note, I think we need to move on towards the Runes Reforged.
Ooh.
Spooky.
Very excited. The spookiest change ever made.
So this is actually a pretty exciting change. I think with a lot of other things, I had a lot to say on this. God, we're really pushing on time.
That's fine. We'll just have a slightly longer episode.
Okay, so I feel like this is really, first of all, I mean, removing of prices and stuff, I feel like I can't believe it hasn't happened already. Like a lot of people are complaining about all the IP they've sunk into Runes.
One thing at a time. So, what is Runes Reforged doing?
Okay, so Runes Reforged is basically what they're doing is they are removing the rune system.
And the mastery system.
And the mastery system. They're being combined into one system where you pick kind of slightly larger keystones and runes in effect that will give you really substantial bonuses in the game, really substantial play style buffs in the game. And again, in the video, he basically says, we want you to kind of pick a rune and play around that rune. Like, we want that rune to be crucial to your kind of play and to be really useful. So, like, you to be able to kind of shape your play around the rune you play, and you choose the things in the game, and be able to choose different runes and kind of, you know, divert your game, make your game plan, in effect, around the runes you choose and the rune masteries, the remasters.
And you can do it in the game, or just before the game, which you cannot currently use.
Yes, runes will be free, is another big thing. You don't have to pay IP on them, and I think they said there'll be certain balancing changes in terms of the IP costs for champions and stuff, because, you know...
I think that's... You can go into that. So I think the first thing to talk about is that it cannot be emphasized enough how fucking awful the current runes and mastery system is. Any game if a game got released now with this system, it would be laughed out of the place because it is so bad on every level. It is this enormous IP sink for runes, for something that affects your game in no interesting way, but it's purely it's purely kind of a gatekeeper.
But it's not like an exciting way where you're like, yeah, I got this new rune. Look at me, I'm looking more beautiful. I have huge golden wings now. It's like, it's slightly easier than the last hit now.
And it's not even because that's because the norm then. That's what everyone has in after a certain point. So it's just the norm. So it's just something you have there. And there's like, the customization is so minimal. What you can change is so minimal between them. It's just this terrible thing. Masteries have obviously improved as time goes on because they changed masteries loads. Runes, just this awful system. It stopped people from getting into the game.
The fact that you have to, the more pages you have means you're more versatile in the game. Like, the more runes you have, the more means you're more pages, and you have to set up your pages, and if you forget to set up your pages, you're screwed. It's
the worst fucking thing in the world. So getting rid of that's great.
Yeah.
The idea of the free thing. So this is what pisses me off with the League community sometimes. I don't really try to get on my high horse too much with the League community, okay? But what they're doing is very good. They're making them free. Yeah. They're getting rid of the idea of to pay for runes, okay? So people coming into the game will not have this huge game. When they try to play with their friend who's level 30, they will not have the added advantage of not only being new to the game, but also having way worse stats than their friend, right?
Yeah.
They won't have that. This is what they're doing. They're making it free. It makes sense. It's what the game should be like. People's first response, maybe it's unrepresented, maybe it's YouTube comments and stuff. Literally, just like, if you look at the YouTube comments video, every single one is complaining about the fact they have spent money on runes before and now they can't anymore. Like,
yeah, and Riot are even compensating. And you see people going, "Oh, I get five free random champion skins." Like, what? I spent like 50,000 IP on my runes. It's like,
of course you did.
Like, I have like 20 rune pages or something. It's just like, I don't care.
Because like, well, I think and for us in particular, I think we definitely care less because we did it a very long time ago.
Yeah.
So I've had all my rune pages, I've had all my runes. It's been a very long time since I've spent IP on runes. So I can understand someone who perhaps is more recently invested in runes and stuff. They might feel a bit rank that they're kind of like, oh, I spent all this IP, but I mean, Jesus, like. That situation, okay, but I just don't give a fuck personally. But like, what you're losing, and like the thing is, this is going to cause controversy because they've announced they're going to compensate people, but they're not going to be able to compensate. Like I'd say I'm spending at least 100,000 IP on runes. They're not going to be able to compensate that much, guys. But people are going to want. When they take a comment, they're like, oh, so they're going to compensate me how? And then there's that comments like, I wonder how they're going to figure out how much each person spent on runes. Like, lads, you're going to get probably like an icon or something. Like, this is a great change for the game. But yeah, there's gonna be shit stirred over this, and people are gonna go mad. And it's just like,
to be honest, Like,
It's progress.
just ignore those people, move on. Again, I feel like people, like, progress not being made, like, I don't want to draw too many comparisons because we don't have that much time, but drawing comparisons like the Magic the Gathering community, which is a card game, there's always a lot of difficulty in terms of reprinting cards that are expensive or bringing out cards and stuff because a lot of people have invested a lot of money, and obviously it's more substantial. That's kind of more obvious. Like, reprinting a card that's worth, let's say, €1,000 is kind of like more obviously losing people money than changing a rune system where people have spent time to get those runes. But it's definitely that not making changes for fear of annoying people who have been happy so up to the date. It's the equivalent of bringing out nice new skins and people getting annoyed that their skins that they've had for 10 years aren't as beautiful and up to date. It's like, we've had this skin for 10 years.
It's like a really high level thing on League of Legends, but Kassadin only has 11 voice lines and Xayah has 150. It's like, and then the natural thing is like, this is bullshit. Why do they keep making so many voice lines for new champions? It's like, what?
Yeah, it's like, to be honest, I just think even the fact that they put all that effort into reworking Pulsefire as well is just like ridiculous. I don't think they need to do that. And the fact that they have is certainly
made a lot of people happy. It's different. Like, that deserves something.
Yeah. I mean,
it felt kind of clunky.
It was only 1,600 RP, and it's been out for
only for what?
It's been out for like 4 years. Like, come on.
Definitely, it's good. Like, like reworking stuff is good. It's more people complaining about good things because good things mean that worse things look worse in comparison.
I mean, I don't think they should be doing it because people are complaining about it. They should be doing it. But yeah. Anyway, so ignoring all the hate that's moving into it. I think the system looks really good. I like the idea of really big kind of effects, like big effects, like the sort of rune that once you're in combat for 3 seconds, you get 60% attack. Oh no.
Yeah, so these are the keystones. So keystones will be these extremely effective and influential things, like nothing we've had before. So example 1 would be like Berserk. So 3 seconds after you damage an enemy with this keystone, you get 60% attack speed for 3 seconds. And you can bypass your and it can extend like 10 seconds, and you bypass your attack speed. And this is just something you have.
Like, that's just insane.
We have nothing remotely like
better than like a lot of items, sort of thing. So these are like, again, you only have 5 as far as I know.
You have I can't remember the numbers. I think you have 6 runes.
6 runes.
1 keystone.
Yeah. So it's going to be kind of, I think, very different. There's going to be a lot less. I feel like base stats and stuff are going to be interesting, and people adapting to kind of not being able to last hit disease and stuff. Or we haven't seen all the runes, so we don't know exactly how it works.
They'll probably update base stats, I'd say.
Maybe, but certainly it looks like really interesting, and that making this choice is like, obviously it'll feel really bad when you get the wrong one in game. Like, the feeling when you don't have the right keystone is bad enough, and when you have, let's say, Berserk and you're playing a support, it might feel goddamn bad. But no, I really like the idea of having big changes. I feel like it's kind of almost Dota-esque. It's kind of, I mean, I say Dota-esque, and when I say Dota-esque, I mean more flashy, more bang, more exciting. Runes before were very boring, very not exciting. And so they're trying to vibe up, give some pizzazz to all the different aspects of the game.
Vibe up the pizzazz. Wow, all right.
Give it more exciting aspects, because again, like the game's always going to be more exciting. They've changed an awful lot of things. They changed the mastery system, the mastery system, to be more exciting. Before it was all like stats and effects, attack speed, really. Regeneration. Well, no, the keystones were the first step. Keystones were more about like giving you an ability. So let's say you get a shield when you CC someone. You have a big lifesteal ability that gives you movement speed. Whenever you deal enough damage, you get loads of movement speed. Like, all these things are things that just aren't just an increase of your existing stats; they're actual abilities by themselves. And so this seems to be very much in that same idea.
And it's basically just the idea: you go into a game, you're like, oh, they have this champion, I think my plan, this is what this is their dream. And then you think, well, I want to be. This game, I kind of want to be maybe more attack speed focused. So I'll choose click. I'll choose these keystones. Yes, I'm ready to go into the game. Then the other person's like, oh, I think their vein might go more attack speed this game. I think I'm going to go for this defensive mastery instead. And then everyone's like outthinking each other and preparing, and they go into this game, they have this mighty clash in Summoner's Rift, and everyone has an ever fun time. We all honor each other, and we come out of it like wipe sweat off our brow. We're like, what a game.
Into the next one. Q-Cinematic.
7,
yeah,
8,
so I do think, like, I'll have to see how many runes they release. Again, it might be kind of boring with this, like, 3, and you always take Berserk for 80 carries, you always take X for another
Preseason will be like that. There'll be one ridiculous one.
Yeah, I hope they make them kind of exciting and enough that you actually do have a choice before you go into game, and you can actually build your playstyle. Like, it's not like the current mastery system and the rune system where you always have one setup 99% of the time. On AD carries, you always have whatever warlords on certain ones, fervor on the others. Sometimes there's a bit of leeway, but for the most part, you always take X on some champions and Y on other champions. So I hope there's a bit more, you know.
And they'll have time to change that. This
Like,
is just
again,
this is the first iteration.
Yeah, and the fact that you only have like 7 runes doesn't mean there only has to be 14 runes. There could be 50 runes. You could have loads of choice, and obviously they won't put too much, but I think it's good.
It's a great change, so we're very excited to see. Because the important thing about these things, it's not just going to be what's the first iteration going to be like. What's it going to be like in the next preseason? Like, it's going to probably be broken. There'll be a couple of broken ones.
Yeah.
What's important is this is the new groundwork. This is the new framework on which League will be from now on. They're kind of like, it's a real fundamental change. They're taking apart the fundamentals that the game is built around, and they're building it up from this new system, which will be much healthier, much more interesting, much better for newer players.
So
just like us,
yeah.
podcast.
So on that note, us, the Paddock podcast, we're gonna leave there. Before we end the podcast, do a couple of shout outs.
Yes. We're on Twitter at PaddockCast, Gmail, the PaddockCast@gmail.com. You can find us on SoundCloud. You can find us on YouTube. Give us a subscription, would be very much appreciated.
Comment.
Yes. Any messages on any of these formats, very appreciated. If you leave us a comment on iTunes, a positive review, we very appreciate it. It's the best way to get the podcast out, and we will shout you out onto the next show.
Yeah. So hopefully we haven't forgotten to shout out anyone, give anyone help. If we have,
Producer Robin's asleep over there. We've been going for a very long time.
If you let us know. Anyway, just we'll talk to you next week, hopefully. And for now, goodbye.
Bye.